Dorothy Must Die, Chapter 21. My pulse was still speeding when I got to the training cave. Seeing him was already going to be different after last night. Dancing together, hearing his story for the first time, and feeling the magic that had finally surged through me. When I walked into the cave, he wasn't alone. A glint of tin caught the light and blinded me for a second. It was the girls who had interrupted our dinner the other night, covered in blood. They looked fine now. Better than fine. Annabelle, the tall one with the unicorn scar, was stretching, while Melindra, the half-tin girl, leaned against the wall with her arms crossed, staring at me. Something about the way Melindra flicked open her metal eyelashes reminded me of Madison back home. Like she already hated me and we haven't even met yet. Melindra and Annabelle will be joining us today, Knox explained to me without looking up. Melindra, Annabelle, Knox said, "This is Amy." "We know who she is," Melindra said. "The girl who fell out of the sky in a tin can to save us all." There was something sarcastic in her voice, but there was something else too, like she couldn't decide whether she was supposed to be suspicious of me or if she was hoping everything they said about me was true. "Knox told me you escaped the Scarecrow's labs," I blurted. I'd been spending too much time with Glamora. Some of her helpful hints about meeting new people was to tell them something you know about them, but for some reason I didn't think she meant bringing up that horrific time the person was tortured by a mad scientist scarecrow. But Melinda suppressed a smile, and I could see that it wasn't such a mistake at all. She was proud of who she was, and of what she had been through. "They wanted to make me join the Tin Man's secret police," Melinda said. "I wasn't going to let that happen, so I got out of there and came here. No one's ever done that before." I was impressed. I'd needed Mombi's help to escape, but this girl had done it all on her own. I wanted to ask how, but now didn't seem like the best time. "We need to see if Melinda and Annabelle are ready to go back out there," Knox said. "We're ready," Annabelle volunteered, without looking to Melinda to help back her up. I couldn't believe it. They'd been torn apart by the lion, but there was still no question of not going back. "Okay, then show us what you got. Amy can spar with the winner," Knox said. He still hadn't looked at me, and now he turned around to busy himself with the equipment. "Don't even," Annabelle warned, watching my gaze follow Knox. "Don't what?" I asked. The girls both giggled. It was weird to see the flesh and blood side of Melindra's face contort in laughter, while the metal side stayed stiff and emotionless. "What?" I asked again. "We've seen that look before," Annabelle said. "Trust me, it's not worth it. Knox only cares about the cause. There's no room inside him for anything else. Not that plenty of people haven't tried." She shot Melinda a knowing glance. "I'm not—" I started, but I could feel myself blushing. "I don't—" I stopped myself. Knox returned, handing the knife to Annabelle, who thanked him with a flirty smirk. Knox ignored it. Or maybe he just didn't notice it in the first place. Melinda shook her head at the knife and instead offered up a clenched fist. As she lifted it up to her chest, a thin, glittering blade folded out from the top of her wrist as easily as a bird would stretch its wings. She looked out at me from behind, with a smirk. Great, I thought. Melinda was a human Swiss Army knife, like Sword Arm back in the palace. At least this one was on my side. She was on my side, right? I leaned against the wall and watched the girls spar. I felt myself shrinking in danger of disappearing again. I didn't want to have to fight either of them. They'd been both at this way longer than I had. Plus, they seemed to hate me. Why, though? And what was Annabelle trying to say about Knox? Was he playing me? Had every moment between us been planned to make me a better fighter? I heard Annabelle scream, and I looked up just in time to see Melinda's blade slashing through her chest, a bright red streak of blood blossoming on her chest. And then, just like that, she disappeared in defeat. Off to the spring, I guess. Melinda didn't drop her fighting stance. Knox looked over at me. "Your turn, Amy. Keep your elbows up. You've been dropping them. And Mel, you're half step behind where you usually are. Focus." A few seconds later, it was me standing opposite Melinda, a knife from Knox in my hand. Although I had trained plenty of times with him before now, I was nervous to be facing someone new. I didn't have time to be nervous. The fight had begun. Melinda was so light and fast on her tin feet that sometimes her metal and flesh seemed to blur together as she danced around me, landing jabs in my sides and chest. It was clear that she was using magic too. I tried to summon the power I'd found the night before with Nox. I was pretty sure that I wasn't allowed to set my opponent on fire, but other than misdirection, that was basically the only magic I really knew how to do. Not that it was working now. I felt my hands get hot a few times, but no flame appeared. I dodged a blow from Melindra, and something made contact with my shin, her metal meeting my bone. I made a desperate, errant swing, and a miss at her flesh side before her other leg sideswiped mine, taking me down to the ground with an ungraceful heap. "What do you think, Nox?" Melindra put a hand on her hip, triumphantly. "Still too slow? Am I ready now?" She reached out her hand to help me up. I ignored it and leapt up to my feet. We went at it again. This time, Melindra moved even faster than before, slashing and diving and feinting around me as I stumbled forward like my feet were made of cement, struggling just to keep my balance and avoid her blade as it whipped through the air in every direction. "Look at you," she said, not pausing in her attack. She swung her leg toward me in a powerful kick, and I barely managed to get out of the way in time. "All this training and you're fighting like it's your first day. Am I making you nervous? Or is it someone else?" I lunged for her, urging the fire to my hands, but it didn't come. Melindra disappeared just as I was about to grab her, and I whirled and ducked just in time to avoid getting a haircut, or worse, as her sword grazed the top of my head. "Oh, did I make you mad?" she asked. She jumped up, and seeing it to hang in midair for a split second as she pulled her knees to her chest before whipping them out like a jackknife and shifting her momentum, flying straight for me. Her feet collided hard against my breastbone, and before I knew what was happening, I was on my back on the stone floor again, the wind knocked out of me. I watched with dazed double vision as she turned a graceful backflip and landed like it was nothing. Melindra whipped out her arm and pushed the tip of her blade onto my throat, looking down at me with contempt. "Poor little Amy," she said. "All of us is depending on you, and you can't even take out a sorry half-girl like me." She was pressing hard enough to hurt without actually breaking the skin, but the message was clear. I would kill you if I wanted to, but for now I'll be nice. "Shut up," I wheezed through the clenched teeth, still struggling to breathe. "Not the best way to impress boys," she said, shifting her eyes sneakily toward Nox. "Especially a boy who cares more about the cause than anyone else." "Shut up," I spat again, feeling my face go red with anger. "They all think you're so special. I don't know why. You can't even do a simple spell. Go ahead, try." She pressed her blade harder. My face burned. My fingers tingled with heat. Nox finally stepped in. "Melindra," she said, grabbing her by the arm. "That's enough. Let her go. She's doing her best." From the disappointed way he was looking back and forth between her and me, I felt like I had let him down twice. First by letting her beat me, and then by not fighting back once she had me pinned. Melinda rolled her eyes and snorted contemptuously, but she pulled her weapon away. "Don't give her false hope, Nox," she said. "You know as well as I do that you're too good for her." She looked back at me. "Not so talented after all, are you? Just another outlander who thinks she's special. We get used to that around here, you know." I've had enough. Enough of being picked on. Enough of other people telling me what to do. Enough of feeling powerless. "Shut up!" I screamed, my words reverberating through the stone chamber. The burning feeling that I'd been building in my body pulsed through me once, and I lit up. I was on fire. The flames came shooting out of my chest in huge curling tongues that all rolled together in one giant ball of fire that exploded out of me, rocketing straight for Melindra. She stepped aside casually, and the fireball shot right past her, hitting the wall of the cave with a pathetic fizzle. Nox's mouth dropped open in surprise, but Melindra was unfazed. "That's really the best you can do?" she asked with a sneer. I pushed past both of them without a word. When I showed up in Gert's cave, she looked at me. "You burned your pretty hair," she said, sounding completely unsurprised. "Teach me," I said. "I'm ready. I want to learn." "Get some rest," she said. "Meet me in the training room tomorrow. You'll learn."